You know that tiny, reckless hope you sometimes get right before life smacks you across the face again? Yeah, that was me, clutching a stupidly expensive bouquet in one hand, and her favorite perfume in the other, standing on the porch of the woman who taught me exactly what disappointment feels like. It was Mother's Day, and like some fool auditioning for a second chance, I had shown up. Fresh flowers from an actual boutique, none of that sad grocery store mess, the same perfume she wore back when she used to call me, love, in public, and a handwritten letter I had poured literal hours into. The kind of letter that bleeds out all your pride and stitches it up with shaky hope. And why? Because a few scraps of kindness over the past few weeks had tricked me into thinking maybe, just maybe, things were different now. Linda had thanked me for helping with her taxes, and it didn't sound forced for once. She texted me back to confirm brunch plans with a plain old smiley face. No emojis, no passive-aggressive periods. Just that simple, dorky smile she used to send me back when I was in middle school, before everything cracked open. So yeah, I let my guard down. I let hope, Indiana. I wasn't aiming for perfect. I wasn't even aiming for warm. I just wanted something softer. Something that didn't feel like I was auditioning to be wanted. I rang the doorbell and took a deep breath. The house in Portwood looked great. Pinterest exploded all over the dining room. Mimosas, cloth napkins, fancy place cards. It almost made me believe I was stepping into a family gathering instead of a social experiment. She opened the door, gave me a once-over, and said, "Oh, you made it." Flat. Not surprised. Not excited. Just confirmation. But you know what? I clung to that half-second of maybe like it was gospel. Maybe this time would be different. I handed Linda the flowers and perfume. She took them like someone handed her a lost and found item, vaguely familiar but not something she'd miss if it disappeared. "Oh, you remembered this one," she said, flipping the perfume bottle over like she was checking for a security tag. Not warm. Not grateful. Just witnessed. I swallowed down the sting. Yeah. I smiled, like an idiot. They only had one left. She nodded, already drifting back to the table where Rick, her husband, and Noah, my half-brother, were laughing about something. Probably one of Noah's college stories. I followed, clutching my gifts like a fifth grader desperate for a gold star. I sat down, to a folded napkin and no place card. No mimosa waiting. No little. "Save a spot for me." Acknowledgement. Fine. Whatever. I poured myself some juice like a normal, independent adult. Rick half-heartedly asked how work was going, but cut me off before I could answer, turning back to Noah's story about his econ professor who looks like he's never paid rent. Everyone laughed. I smiled. Sipped my sad orange juice. Said nothing. But deep down, something inside me started to crack. Because today, unlike all the other days, I had actually tried. I had written that letter, that raw, vulnerable, pathetic little letter, and it was still burning a hole in my jacket pocket. I was still holding on to the fantasy that if I found the right moment, if I handed it over just right, it would mean something. That it would fix something. I don't know why I thought brunch could save anything. Maybe because hope doesn't die quietly. It claws, it bargains, it rewrites reality until you can't tell wishful thinking from a second chance. There I was, sitting at a table decorated like a magazine spread, while Linda fussed over the centerpiece like it was a guest of honor. Rick and Noah were cracking jokes, trading stock talk and dorm gossip, while I poured myself a mimosa no one thought to offer. That red envelope sat heavy in my jacket, begging for its moment. I waited, watching for a lull. A pause. Anything. Rick wandered off to take a call. Noah's attention slid to his phone. The table quieted just enough. So I stood up, pulled it out, and placed it beside Linda's plate. No speech. No drama. Just a quiet, simple gesture. "I wrote you something." She barely glanced at it. Didn't touch it. Didn't smile. Didn't say anything. Noah leaned in with that smugness he wore like cologne. "What is that, a love letter?" Laughter followed. Rick chuckled. Linda didn't defend me. Didn't even flinch. Still smiling, brittle, forced, robotic, I said, "No. Just a thank you." Then came the silence. Not warm or thoughtful, just blank. Like no one knew what to do with that kind of vulnerability. Eventually, someone asked for the butter. And just like that, my moment was buried under brunch. Not a soul at that table mentioned the letter again. Not a glance. Not a question. It might as well have vanished. Afterward, I cleaned. Because that's what I do. I clear dishes, make small talk, and keep the engine running for a family that hasn't had room for me in years. As I carried a stack of plates toward the kitchen, I noticed something. The garbage bags were already missing. Taken out back. Quickly. Too quickly. A cold suspicion started to settle in my gut, sharp and familiar. I told myself it was probably nothing. But still, I walked outside. The garage door stood half open, the sun cutting across the floor just enough to show the bins shoved into the corner. And there they were. My gifts. The perfume box, still sealed. The bouquet, slumped and bent like it had been dropped carelessly. And the envelope, bright red, unopened, leaning against a trash bag like a warning flare. My entire offering, dumped. I stood frozen, the plates still in my hands. There was no rage at first. No meltdown. Just that strange, blurry feeling when reality sucker punches you and your brain can't quite keep up. Eventually, I moved. Set the dishes down gently. Walked back out. I didn't think. I just did it. Reached into the trash. Pulled out the perfume, the flowers, the letter. For a long moment, I just held them. Not out of drama. Not to make a scene. They were mine. And if she didn't want them, then I wasn't leaving them behind like scraps. It wasn't about making a point. It wasn't pride or some calculated performance. Truthfully? I just couldn't stand the idea of my love decomposing under eggshells and coffee grinds. Not again. Not this time. I walked to my car like I was carrying evidence from a crime scene. Got in. Shut the door. Turned off the engine. The envelope sat on the passenger seat. I stared at it for a long time. Thank you for everything, it said. I know it wasn't easy. I'm proud of the woman you've become. I still love you, even when it hurts. What a stupid, naive thing to write. I sat there until the edges of my vision stopped burning. Then I drove home. Quietly. No door slamming. No shouting. No petty exit line. Just gone. There's this idea people like to toss around, that love fades slowly, like sand slipping through your fingers. But in my case, it was more like falling through a trapdoor you never saw coming. Linda used to say I was her whole world. That was before Rick. She met him when I was 10. He showed up for dinner a few times, quiet guy, kind of bland in that trustworthy white-collar way. The kind of man people described as solid, without really knowing why. I didn't hate him. Not at first. I thought, stupidly, that I might be gaining something. I didn't realize I was about to be erased. The shift came fast, faster than my brain could process, but slow enough to make me question whether I was imagining it. One morning, Rick's car was just there. In the driveway. His shoes in the hallway. Linda wore more makeup than usual and smiled at him like a teenager sneaking glances in homeroom. Then came Noah. They called him a miracle baby. Born less than a year after Rick moved in. I was still 10. My bedroom was shoved down the hall, further from theirs. The home office became a nursery. The fridge doubled, one inside, one in the garage, stocked with formula and mashed organic nonsense. And suddenly, every surface in the house screamed. New family. There were photos, so many photos. Rick, Linda, and Noah are in matching pajamas. Noah with Santa. Noah is at the zoo. Noah was learning to walk while they clap like he just invented gravity. I was in none of them. Not one. I remember pausing on the staircase one day and staring at a canvas print that read, "Family is everything." And all I could think was, not this one. Not anymore. At first, I made excuses. Newborns are exhausting. They're busy. It's just a phase. But the phase never ended. It just calcified into normal. They forgot my spelling bee. Missed my school musical. Left me waiting in the rain after karate. Twice. Rick never said I wasn't his kid. He just never said I was. Unless someone asked directly, I was around. I was. The other one. Noah, though? He was our boy. I remember the day he called Rick Dad, and everyone teared up. I brought home a school award that same week, and Linda just said, That's great. Can you keep an eye on your brother while I rest? It wasn't that she stopped loving me. She just started loving someone else louder. And silence? That's the part that really does you in. You don't notice how heavy it gets until it's been sitting on your chest for years. By the time I left for college, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a place I once visited. But I still came back. Birthdays. Holidays. I still bought gifts. Paid for groceries when things were tight. Even after I found out they'd gone on vacation and just forgot to tell me. I helped Rick get a job. Pulled some strings. I used contacts I shouldn't have. He didn't have the qualifications, but when no one checks your resume, a firm handshake gets you pretty far. They never gave me credit. Never told anyone I helped. But I told myself that was okay. I wasn't doing it for thanks. I was doing it to stay tethered. To feel like I was still theirs, even if I hadn't been for a long time. I called Linda on random Wednesdays. Helped her with insurance paperwork. Sometimes she replied. Sometimes she didn't. But when she did, it felt like breathing. I reread one of her texts for weeks. You always come through. Thank you. Just that. Nothing special. But if you've ever felt invisible to someone who used to call you everything, you know how much that line can weigh. That's why this brunch cut so deep. Because I thought, for one naive second, that maybe we'd made it past the fog. She'd confirmed the invite with a smiley. She thanked me for helping with taxes. She hadn't asked for money. I thought maybe the tide was turning. And then I handed her the envelope, the one I wrote with shaking hands and cracked pride, and she didn't even open it. She threw it out. And I saw it there, crushed, untouched, humiliated, next to the trash like it never mattered. Like I never mattered. So no, it wasn't about one day. It wasn't about brunch. It wasn't even about the letter. It was everything before that moment. All the shrinking. All the quiet giving. All the times I stood in that house and felt like an uninvited guest at a party I used to co-host. And that's when I decided. I was done knocking. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry. Not even because I was heartbroken. It was something worse. Clarity. The kind of clarity that arrives like cold air through an open window, sudden, sharp, and impossible to ignore. It wasn't just that Linda threw away my gifts. It was that she didn't even think she had to hide it. She knew I'd see. And she didn't care. That kind of apathy? It doesn't come from misunderstanding. It comes from knowing someone will keep coming back anyway. Except I didn't. Not this time. That night, I placed the perfume, the wilted flowers, and the still-sealed letter on my kitchen counter. They looked smaller now, not like offerings, but like the ruins of someone I used to be. I stared at them for a long time. Then I opened my laptop. First, utilities. The gas, water, electric, all the bills I'd been quietly covering for Linda for months without her ever asking, or saying thank you. Final payments. Cancel autopay. Done. Next, tuition. I'd promised to help with Noah's upcoming semester. It hadn't gone through yet, scheduled for the 15th. Cancel transfer. Close the browser. Then the letter. No, I didn't rewrite it. Didn't burn it. Didn't reread it. But I did write another one. A short email. Subject: Mother's Day. Body: just a heads up, I tucked some cash inside that red letter I gave you at brunch. It was for Noah's tuition. I thought you'd know what to do with it. Hope it didn't get lost. Send. Then I closed my laptop, brewed tea I didn't drink, and waited. It took exactly until 8:12 the next morning. Ping. Wait. What do you mean cash? Ping. I didn't see anything inside. Ping. Oh my God! How much? I'm going to look right now. Then came the calls. Over and over. Linda, Rick, even Noah. Voicemails stacked like tiny panic attacks. I'm sure it's here somewhere. I didn't throw it away, I swear. Tell me how much. Please. Just tell me how much was in it. I didn't reply. I didn't answer. I didn't even flinch. Because now she was the one standing in the garage, looking at the bag, wondering what exactly she had destroyed. And that uncertainty? That doubt? That was the point. There was no cash. But she didn't know that. And now every time she thought of that red envelope, she'd feel it, the weight of what she might have thrown away. Not just money. Not just a gift. Me. Rick finally broke his silence around noon. Texted me like we were colleagues, not family. You're being childish. This is a serious situation. Please confirm whether the money was real. I almost responded with, check the garbage truck. Instead, I put my phone on silent. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about balance. For the first time since I was 10 years old, Linda was going to feel uncertain. She was going to feel what I'd felt. Every birthday I waited for a card that didn't come, every voicemail that went unreturned, every time she posted a photo of the family, without me in it. Let her wonder. Let her panic. Let her sit in the stillness and squirm. And when she finally picked up the phone to call someone about it, when she tried to turn to Rick for comfort, that's when the next domino fell. Because Rick? His career wasn't built on experience. It was built on me. I had vouched for him. Introduced him to clients. Spoke his name into rooms he never deserved to be in. And I still had those contacts. I didn't rant. Didn't expose. Just sent 3 polite emails. Hi, just a quick heads up. Moving forward, please don't associate my name with Rick Telford. Nothing dramatic, just setting personal boundaries. Hope that makes sense. That's all it took. No gossip. No details. Just enough to plant doubt. Just enough to make people hesitate. By the end of the week, one contract was frozen. A client pulled their retainer. An old vendor opted to deal with someone else directly. Rick's emails went from confident to clipped. Then came the "we're restructuring" call. Translation? He was fired. He never saw it coming. But I did. Because I built the ladder, he climbed, and I knew exactly which rung to pull. The beauty of silence is that it doesn't flinch. It doesn't beg. It doesn't perform. And when you're used to being the family doormat, going completely still is the most terrifying thing you can do. By the weekend, the text had gone from frantic to feral. Linda had stopped asking if I was okay. Now it was, "You need to stop this. Right now." Rick sent a follow-up email, professional, cold, like we were hashing out a broken lease instead of a lifetime of resentment. "Your choice to disengage is jeopardizing my career. I trust you'll reconsider, for the sake of the family's stability." Translation. Your silence is costing me money. I didn't reply. Didn't even open the next one. Then Noah entered the chat. He sent me a voice note that started with, "Look, I know things weren't perfect," and ended with, "But seriously, you're blowing up Mom's life over some trash?" That one nearly made me laugh. Some trash. That's the root of it all, isn't it? They treated me like clutter. Shoved into corners, boxed up when inconvenient. Left untouched until guilt season rolled around. And now that I'm gone, the whole damn house feels empty. Still, I said nothing. No gloating. No. "Here's why you suck." Email blast. Just silence. Because that was the only language they never learned to understand. Then came Linda's last move, the unannounced office ambush. No warning. No. "Can we talk?" She just showed up, striding into the foyer of my building in a white blazer and heels that stabbed the tile like punctuation. The receptionist looked like she'd seen a ghost. Buzzed me in a panic. Your mother is here?" I went downstairs. There she was, arms folded, eyes sharper than usual. Her voice was calm, but that kind of calm that has teeth. "Can we talk?" she said, already walking toward the doors before I could answer. We stepped outside. She didn't ask how I was. Didn't apologize. Straight to the point. "You've humiliated this family. You embarrassed your brother. Rick's job is hanging by a thread. Do you understand what that means?" I looked at her, then nodded. "I understand exactly what that means." Her jaw tightened. "You're doing this out of spite over one brunch?" I tilted my head. "Is that what you think?" She kept going, like she was reading from a script of every favor ever done for me. "We raised you. We fed you. We paid for your school." I held up my hand. "And I covered your utilities for 2 years. I offered to pay Noah's tuition. I got Rick hired. But yeah, sure, let's talk about the sneakers you bought me in the 5th grade. That cracked something. Her face flinched. Like the mask slipped for just a second. Then she went for the classic fallback. That was your choice. We never asked you to help. No, I said. You didn't ask. You just expected. Expected me to pay. Expected me to show up. Expected me to keep giving, even after you threw away the only thing I had left to offer. She opened her mouth, probably to say something else about how I was ruining her life. I didn't let her. I saw it, Linda, I said. The letter. The flowers. The perfume. All of it, in the garbage. She froze. Her eyes flickered like she was replaying it in her head. I didn't know, she said finally. I thought maybe you'd taken it with you. You weren't sure? I didn't mean to. You never do. I didn't yell. Didn't raise my voice. Just let her hear it, raw, stripped of all the grace I used to wrap around my pain to make it easier for her to swallow. I'm not cleaning up the mess this time. And if Rick loses his job? If Noah has to defer college? That's not on me anymore. She looked at me like I was someone she'd never met before. And maybe I was. Because the version of me who begged for a place at their table? He was gone. Fallout doesn't always look like screaming matches or slammed doors. Sometimes, it's just the quiet unraveling of people who thought you'd never walk away. Rick's career fell apart faster than any of them expected. One client pulled out without a word. Another ghosted after a vague restructuring. The last one, the one I introduced him to, asked to deal with someone else moving forward. By the end of the month, Rick was let go. Not fired, just encouraged to move on. A clean exit, no questions asked. But everyone knew why. And he knew it too. Meanwhile, Noah's tuition payment never showed up. No confirmation email. No. Thanks, big bro. He had to defer. He texted me once about it, short, bitter, and barely coherent. Seriously? Over a brunch? Grow up. I didn't respond. Because that wasn't the issue. It was never just the brunch. It was the 1,000 other moments that led to that table. I sat like a placeholder in my own life. Still, they couldn't help themselves. They tried to drag me back in. Linda started light, the soft guilt tone she perfected over the years. Messages like, "Hope you're okay. Just thinking of you. This doesn't feel like you. You've always been so kind." Then she switched tactics. "Noah's upset. Rick is struggling. You've made your point. So what now? You're cutting us off forever? We raised you. We loved you. This is cruel." But none of it landed. Because none of it acknowledged what really happened. What they did. Then came the voicemail. She sounded calm at first, controlled, careful. Like she had practiced it. "I just want to talk. That's all. No expectations. Just a conversation." Pause. "You know, I found that old photo of us from when you were 7. That trip to Silver Lake. Remember that? You wore that ridiculous sun hat. God, you hated it." Another pause, longer this time. "I don't know where we went wrong." And there it was. We. The word that dodges blame and spreads the guilt evenly across the floor like it's everyone's fault that things broke. She still didn't get it. I replayed that message twice, once to hear her voice, and once to listen to what was missing. "No. I'm sorry. No. I hurt you." No truth. Just nostalgia and manipulation, disguised as sentimentality. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. Not even because I wanted to hurt her. I just didn't owe her the comfort of my explanation anymore. That night, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, a tiny place in Portwood, nothing fancy, but quiet in the best way. The city hummed below me. The lights blinked like signals from a future I wasn't afraid of anymore. And I realized something. Peace doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes, it just shows up when you stop offering pieces of yourself to people who treat them like clutter. Sometimes I wonder if I overreacted. Maybe I could have just swallowed the sting. Smiled through another brunch. Pretended the letter didn't end up in the trash like everything else I ever tried to give them. Maybe if I just picked a better moment, a better tone, a better time to finally say, "I see what you've done." But then I remember the garage. The way the flowers sagged. The unopened perfume box was leaning against the trash. The crimson envelope, my heart, my hope, half crushed and discarded. They didn't even open it. Not because they forgot. Not because they were busy. Because it never mattered enough to them to try. And that's when I realized. I didn't burn any bridges. I just stopped walking across one that had already been burned from their side years ago. I'm not proud of the lie about the cash. But I'm not ashamed either. Because for once, they felt what I had felt for so long, the gnawing, sick panic that maybe they had thrown away something important. Something they couldn't get back. And I didn't have to raise my voice. Didn't have to send angry texts. Didn't have to humiliate them publicly. All I had to do was leave, and let the truth rot quietly where they left it. The flowers eventually died on my counter. I never wore the perfume. I never opened the letter again. One day, I tucked them all into a box and slid it onto the top shelf of my closet, not because I was saving them, but because I wasn't ready to pretend they never mattered. Maybe I never will be. Some losses you don't outgrow. You just learn how to carry them without letting them bury you. These days, life is smaller. Quieter. But it feels mine. No forced brunches. No silent punishments. No more trying to contort myself into something easier to love. Just the version of me that survived it. Sometimes, late at night, when the city hums and I'm alone on my balcony, I wonder if Linda ever really realized what she lost. I wonder if, somewhere in her endless replays of what went wrong, she ever stops and asks herself if maybe, just maybe, she should have opened the letter. But that's not my weight to carry anymore. I chose peace. Real peace. Not the kind where you smile through hurt. The kind where you stop handing your heart to people who only know how to throw it away. And honestly, it's lighter over here. Way lighter.